Hey everyone, this is Orver Jam once again, near Protocol Philippines. We've got exciting discussion with a blockchain entrepreneur, and we're excited to introduce him. We're going to learn DeFi, the defiance of the masses against decentralized, could be perceived as oppressive financially entities. And matutunan natin to kasi bilang ako mismo, I'm a low-tech millennial, so I'm still learning. I'm still trying to wrap my head around this concept, but we're getting there. The key is to start, no matter where you are, what state you're in, so to speak. So tonight's guest is the current CTO of Halo DAO. Halo DAO is a synthetic stablecoin protocol for Southeast Asia. It essentially aims to bring low cost, low barrier financial services and permissionless commerce to every Juan de la Cruz and Juana de la Cruz as well. Essentially in Southeast Asia, not just in the Philippines. This guy also has got a wealth of experience delivering blockchain solutions to financial institutions, not just any financial institutions, but such behemoth financial institutions as the Asian Development Bank located in Ortigas. I passed by there, used to pass by there a lot of times. But when you talk about ADB, trying to fund different countries in Asia, including the Middle East, that's a big player over there. And this guy is a consultant. He's also consulting with Union Bank of the Philippines and other governmental agencies across different domains such as finance, decentralized identity, disaster response, and remittance, which we're going to talk about. We can all relate to. We were all our remittance centers wherever you are. Your padala to my manang, to our tita, and so on and so forth. Also, he is the co-founder and board of trustee at BlockDevs Asia, providing an open learning environment for engineers to easily upskill themselves and tap into the growing Philippine blockchain and crypto industry. So without further ado, please help me in welcoming Chris Verceles. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jam. Happy to be on. Thanks for the invite.
Sure, we're gonna learn. Let's crack into this decentralized finance, aka DeFi. Okay, so right off the bat, let's set the groundwork. What is DeFi or decentralized finance?
Sure. Well, I'll do my best to answer. At least in my mind, DeFi, aside from the full two words of it, is essentially like bypassing sort of the middleman. So let's say if you wanted to lend to someone and someone wanted to borrow your money, which is where sort of interest rates come from, right? You would have to go through a middle person, like a bank, for example. Of course, that middle person, like the bank, would take a cut of that income that would otherwise go through the lender. With DeFi, you can sort of lend peer-to-peer, quote unquote. So like, for example, Jam, if you and I were, if for example, I were to borrow money from you and you were to lend it to me, you could charge a direct interest rate rather than someone else taking a cut in the middle. So it essentially allows you to essentially take advantage of like quote unquote banking products, like getting a savings rate, loans, essentially without anyone having to facilitate that. So anywhere in the world, you can lend and borrow from people you don't know. You can get a savings rate as if you had a bank account, without even like filling up a form. Essentially, you just have an account and you'd earn on it, just like you have an app. Let's say with like say Gcash or Paymaya, except it now has all your banking features, and that's just available to you anywhere in the world without having a bank account or filling up any filling up a whole bunch of forms. At least that's my attempt to explain it in a quick and easy way.
All right, fair enough. Without the middleman.
Yeah, exactly. So banking without a bank, at least maybe the short way to say it.
Wow, that's quite a concept. Because these banks, they've got overhead expense, right? They've got structures, they've got rent, they've got employees to pay, technologies to maintain. So they've got to cover their overhead expense. Plus, they want to profit from it because that's their business model. So I can only imagine the arm and a leg cost there. If you do you want to expound on that? And like how much does it really like? Okay, so let's just ask the next question because I think it sheds light on this. Um, so we already have conventional finance, for example, let's say the banking, the conventional banking middleman. Um, so we need, why the need for DeFi, for decentralized finance, and how much can we save from it, from that angle?
Yeah, I can start with the question: how much can you save with, let's say, DeFi versus a a traditional bank account, for example? And I can use so savings rates are a good example, right? Um, so let's say what is the traditional savings rate on a Filipino bank account now? I don't know the exact number, but it's like what 0.05%, was it? I don't know if I'm getting that number right, but usually you'll just see like maybe a few pesos in your bank account, a few pesos earned in your bank account every year, maybe, depending on the amount, of course. Uh, and even that gets taxed, right, with like withholding gains and stuff. So
And inflation.
and inflation, right? And especially during COVID now, the inflation all over the world is really, really high. But anyway, going back to the savings rate example, uh, anyone who's touched DeFi, let's say this last year average, has probably earned about 8% or 9% on their total amount deposited. And that's just a rough figure, right? But let's say if you had, let's say, 100 pesos in your bank account, uh, and if you notice that there was like some earnings at the end of the year, compare that putting it in DeFi, for example, 100 pesos would have earned so maybe 8 or 9 pesos. So of course, if it's 100, if it's 1,000 pesos, then it's even more, 80, 90 pesos, or go even higher, then it scales the same way. So it essentially allows you to essentially earn all the income directly from the person borrowing from you, rather than going through a bank, like you said, Jam, that very correctly said that has its own expenses to pay. So it's just like how we book an Uber, or the overused example of if we book an Uber rather than booking a taxi service, we go direct to the driver. But in this case, now we go direct to each other when we want to do lending and borrowing or any type of banking transaction, so to speak.
Wow. So I didn't think of that from the saving and growing your balance. 8 and 9%, man. It's like even above like an index fund or something, because you even can, if you want to grow your money from an index fund, for example, they say at least conservatively at 4%, because it fluctuates. But an 8 and 9%, man, that's a lot. Okay.
Yeah,
Wow. Okay. Okay. All
yeah,
right.
definitely. Yeah,
Hmm.
and one nice thing about it is, if I can just quickly add to that, usually like in any kind of like investment vehicle, right? You need to keep your money with that financial institution or service for a set number of time, like
Hmm.
maybe 2 months, 3 months, or a year. I don't know, depends on the package. With DeFi, like you deposit it. If it's there for 1 second, you earn whatever you should get for 1 second. If it's there for 10 years, you earn whatever you get for 10 years, but it's paid to you in real time. So it's like streaming a movie from the internet, but now you're streaming money, right? So yeah, at least I think that's a really interesting way to think about it.
Wow, man. I don't know where to begin right now, like where to like go on a tangent with this. Okay, so how did it begin? Um, Obviously, I think we're going to talk about 2008 here, but you might want to touch on that as well. How did decentralized finance begin?
Yeah, and I don't think I was completely in the space yet when it began. So for example, like the example I gave, lending and borrowing, right? That's like a what you can call a financial primitive, or at least the basics of finance. And I'm saying these things in very oversimplified terms because I'm not traditionally a finance person, so maybe I'm saying something wrong. But at least the way I understand it is, it began with MakerDAO. So we had Bitcoin and Ethereum, right?
Mm.
So Bitcoin was sort of like, you can send money P2P, etc. It's a volatile asset, but now it's sort of like digital gold. Then we had Ethereum, that you can build, you can build other apps on top of, or build other tokens on top of, and build anything you want. So Ethereum is like the world computer. Now, MakerDAO came and realized that Bitcoin and Ethereum are very volatile assets. So, like for example, if I were to lend, again, the lending example, if I were to lend to you 1 Ethereum, and you were to pay me back at a later time, do you pay me back in Ethereum or dollar terms? So that's sort of like the difficulty in like conducting financial transactions with volatile assets. So what MakerDAO did was they released something called DAI, so DAI, and its value, it's essentially a cryptocurrency where its value, 1 DAI equals 1 USD or $1. So they had a really interesting way of making sure that it stayed approximately $1. It's not a perfect peg, but they use Ethereum collateral to generate DAI, which is essentially an IOU, but that would trade in stable terms. So for example, always stay at roughly $1. So now you can use it to sort of like lend, borrow, and off that earn a savings rate essentially. And that was they conceptualized that, and maybe I'm getting the year wrong. I think that was in 2014 or 2013 or even before Ethereum, but they launched it on Ethereum, and it's like the basis of like decentralized finance now. So yeah, they call it a financial primitive of DeFi.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. But also for our viewers there, it's appealing to people in the third world country because these are not bankable people, which means that these people don't even have access to banks, let alone maybe a proximity. They have to go to, arduous like mountain ranges before they can deposit to the bank. And the Philippines is somewhat a microcosm of that because I think, do you happen to know how much percentage of Filipinos do have bank accounts, or maybe a rough estimate?
I only know the percentages that people throw around in the fintech community generally. So some say 70% are unbanked. Some say 80%. I guess it depends on. I guess you might know the number as well, but that's my initial guess. Just repeating what people say.
Yeah.
But one thing with DAI, and thanks for grounding the conversation there. One thing with DAI is that, as you said, it's essentially permissionless, right? Anyone can access it anywhere as long as you have a blockchain account or crypto wallet.
Yeah.
And for example, in Argentina, where they have different problems, right? But what's happening there is that their currency is, they can't rely on it as much. Their currency is fluctuating more than they would like, so they can't conduct basic commerce on it. So what's happening is a lot of people are using DAI there as a medium of exchange, or or essentially to get paid and to pay each other to purchase things, and they're using that more than Bitcoin in Argentina. So it's a good it's a good example of what you can use what we like to call permissionless stable coins like DAI. So for example, here in the Philippines, if what a lot of people think is that for example, Gcash and Paymaya. Now that's pretty big in the metro areas, right? And
Yeah.
it's getting a lot of usage. But somewhere far away where there's nowhere to cash in and there's nowhere to cash out, because you can't just there is Cebuana Lawyer or LBC Padala, but it's not everywhere, right? In those areas, how do you reach those areas? So like you said, the people live in far-flung areas, but how do you expand sort of quote unquote financial inclusion to those people? And I think the answer is these permissionless stablecoins, because you can use these anywhere as long as you have an account. Of course, there's a lot of different issues there, but it stems to the fact that no one needs to operate that infrastructure in the same way that Gcash or Paymaya would need to, because it's shared infrastructure, and that's the blockchain. Essentially what backs Bitcoin and Ethereum as well. So I may be going off topic there and into more questions, but I'll just stop there quickly.
No worries, because what you have covered might shed light on some shall we say knowledge gap among our viewers and future viewers maybe. So let's just say the 80-20 rule. Okay, so like 80% of Filipinos, let's just peg it that 80%. 80 million of Filipinos still use fiat or cash, still cash transaction. That's why these remittances, the Louis, like in my case, for example, earlier, I had to send my sister through Palawan because she's in the boondocks, and I told her if I could send it through Paymaya, then she couldn't because she didn't have even a signal there, just phone. So it cost me 90 peso. That's about almost $2 for sending her 3,000. So I think my point is that when you use decentralized finance and a lot of people are on board with it, then any Juan de la Cruz who's got maybe a smartphone can already transact with whomever in the world real time. Is that correct?
Yeah, essentially. I mean, as long as that phone has access to the internet and has a blockchain wallet installed, then you can potentially transact with anyone anywhere in the world in a few seconds, 15 seconds, half a minute, depending on how fast they use it. But yeah, I mean that's a basic value proposition, or that's a basic benefit that anyone with a cell phone or can conduct commerce between each other, can buy and sell, can buy goods, get them delivered. Yeah, I mean that's the kind of thing that DeFi. One of the things that DeFi can enable, it's that because no one owns the infrastructure, then the infrastructure is owned by the community, and if the infrastructure is owned by the community, then essentially it exists everywhere. So that's kind of like one way to try and explain it, if that made sense.
Okay. By the way, Chris, do you speak Tagalog?
I do, but don't make me do it right now.
Okay, no, it's all right. No worries. Okay, so what can they take home from this if you have a smartphone, for example? Like a lot of people, at least have one smartphone, or a couple for whatever reasons, one for gaming, one for calling. Do they have? Is there like is there like a minimum spec of a smartphone that can transact with DeFi, or is any smartphone, even if it's just 2 GB, maybe RAM, would suffice?
I don't know if there's a minimum spec. I think like most Android phones now are more than enough to just to have a blockchain wallet in it and have a browser in it. So as long as you have Chrome and your phone can, I don't know, load a web page and install an app, then that's enough. And that's really interesting, right? And I mean, of course, it depends on the services and the apps that are actually built. Like some will still need you to upload your ID, etc., because they still have to be compliant with the law.
Right.
But the basic point is that if you have a phone with a browser and a blockchain wallet, then you can participate in financial products that typically would not have existed unless you were well, rich or something, right? Or with access to a personal banker or something like that. You can get into you can get into like you have get as simple as get a savings rate. You can bet on futures. You can pretty much do anything that traditional financial products only provided to people who are maybe lived in the capital or had a banking relationship with a bank, essentially.
All right. Interesting how the word synthetic there, because I just stumbled upon it actually. The word like synthetic coins, or whatchamacallit, could represent the real life 3D assets or whatever. But we're not going to touch into that, I guess. Maybe that's a topic for another day, maybe to build on this. So this is like 101, DeFi 101, as much as we're trying to make it really as 101 as possible here. So anyone who's got a smartphone, an Android specifically, because I think if the fact that you can have an iPhone, I guess you can afford to go to the bank. But yung pangmasa, di ba? The masses can have like Oppo or whatever Chinese phone that they have. They can already be on board. Do you think? And later we're gonna show them how they can essentially do it. They can get their feet wet. We're gonna show them how easy it can be to have their wallet in whatever coins or tokens that they want to get on board with. At least what kind of are we? Oh, later, yeah, we're going to talk about it later. But right now I think So in your opinion, do you think, will DeFi replace conventional banking altogether in the long run? Of course, I have not projected a timetable there, but let me know. It is an open-ended question, so you can slice it in whatever way you can. Will DeFi replace banking in the long run?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. And a lot of people will give different answers. I think it won't. I mean, to give the really like old example that everyone uses of like Uber versus taxis. I mean, Uber did not replace taxis, but it took a significant like portion of that market. I think DeFi will work where there is no current infrastructure that is built by like traditional finance. Uh, so I mean, it's just not profitable for a lot of like traditional financial products to expand to a place where there aren't a lot of people, right? So just like if there's only a few people in one area, then it doesn't make sense to bring fiber internet. It doesn't make sense for a telco to install fiber. What you need is something that then doesn't need one company to install infrastructure. So in the same way that DeFi can go to those places as long as they have an internet connection, then a traditional financial institution then won't have to go there anymore, because they won't go there anyway because they have to build everything themselves. So if they don't have, if an app builds on DeFi, they don't have to build everything themselves, and they can reach anyone with an internet connection. So I think that's where it will apply, at least in Southeast Asia. Of course, there's different use cases like in more developed nations, but for at least for our country and similar countries to ours, it will be low infrastructure areas that benefit from it the most.
It does make sense. And when Elon Musk's internet low flying, what do you call it again?
Yeah, I forgot. Starlink. Yeah, was that right? Starlink. Yeah.
Starlink.
Yeah. I did see some news. Did you see that they're working with Converge, was it, to try and have some satellite coverage here?
No, but the one in France, one province in France, who really defied Elon Musk there, and they're so they have phobia with all the radio waves and all that. That's what I stumbled upon. But no, working with Converge, I can only imagine. Like if Elon Musk's Starlink, anyone can have access to internet, then we're gonna be hyper connected with one another.
Yeah.
So. Mhm.
Oh, sorry, interrupted you there, Jam.
No, that was supposed to finish
Yeah.
my.
Okay. Now I was saying it's not even just DeFi and getting savings rates and lending and borrowing, right? People now are even just playing video games or crypto games online, and they're breeding pets, and then they're earning money off these pets. So, I mean, I'm sure you saw the news somehow that people were playing Axie Infinity during the COVID lockdown, in the Philippines, and replacing their full-time salary. What were they earning, like 30,000-40,000 a month per person, playing full-time, 8 hours a day? So I mean, just the simple fact again that they had a phone and an internet connection. It's not technically DeFi, but they're earning income just by
Right.
playing a video game like similar to Pokemon or yeah, or
So,
Farmville. Yeah.
or crypto kitties.
Yeah. Well, CryptoKitties was like sort of like version 0, right? Axie Infinity is a bit more advanced, and they're releasing a lot more features. But it's really interesting that if you breed digital creatures now, you can earn a living. So that's really cool.
Wow. Remember Tamagotchi before when you tried when you um
Yeah.
that creature pet, but now it's becoming more realistic. And did they get paid in fiat or in crypto?
They get paid in crypto. But then, so of course, how do you turn that crypto into cash? Every month you earn it. And these people can just sell it between themselves. But there's also exchanges like, Binance P2P that allows you just cash it out. Of course, there's other exchanges that do that, not just Binance, but Binance P2P is one thing that you don't have to sort of, go to an exchange and physically exchange your crypto. You just do it on the internet. Of course, there's a
Right.
lot of other apps, but that's just one example. So that's really interesting. So again, if you have a phone and an internet connection, and you install blockchain wallet, then you can play all this stuff. You can earn income. So yeah, I mean that's the overarching goal. So that's all you need.
Man, I can envision really like a global village, literally, because like in the village before, you know, a couple hundred people. You've got your metalsmith, the guy who sells, say, I don't know, clothes, and then people go to him, and everybody knows everybody else. Everybody owes someone else, and they do barter system. So I've got a couple of eggs here. We don't have a
Right.
fiat. So let's try to determine and appraise the value of that, and let's exchange. But when it comes to cryptocurrency, it's divisible to an nth time or degree.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree. And one way I like to explain it is that, well, what blockchains do, not just cryptocurrency, but blockchain, which is what powers cryptocurrency. What it allows you to do is essentially take a village and the way a village works. Like for example, there's this concept where villagers can essentially pool funds together for whatever for whatever reason they have that needs to be spent on the community. And that's because they trust each other and they know each other. So it works because of that. But what happens when you scale that up into a situation where you can have a global village, like you said, but not everyone can know each other? And that's what blockchain allows you to do. So it takes things like paluwagan or this DeFi stuff
Mm.
or Axie Infinity. You can do that with a blockchain as if everyone in that network is in one village and can trust each other, even if they don't know each other. So that's what blockchains allow you to do. It allows you to automate trust, so to speak, so that you can transact with 100% confidence, even if you don't know the person, as if you were all in one tiny village.
Wow. I was I'm really I'm tempted to touch on blockchain a little bit because maybe our listeners don't know the technology that underpins DeFi. So they might ask, so if there's no middleman, who's the middle meta man here? Um, Maybe you can fill them in a little bit on how blockchain works and where the infrastructure works, the data stored, like nodes and all that. Maybe in a nutshell,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, I'll do my best. So it's always a tricky thing to explain it sometimes, but feel free to ask if it doesn't make sense. But what's the best way the shortest way I usually explain it? So blockchain is sort of like, when let's say again we're a village, right? And let's say we all put money in with the village treasurer or something, for lack of a better term, and then that we all trust that person to spend on behalf of the community, right? And the person makes decisions. Every time that person makes a decision, that person asks everyone else in the community, are you okay with spending your money here for this purpose? That person is the blockchain. And imagine instead of just one person doing that, you had that person with sort of that person, you have a copy of that person that just walks with each person in that village and says every time money needs to be spent for something, that you could say assistant will always be there talking to you. And there's another copy of that assistant talking to another person. And they just all know and they're all talking about the same thing. And everyone is in sync all the time. That's a blockchain. So that assistant, that treasury assistant, is the node, uh, and they just keep in sync all the time and
Mm.
automatically update you as a user if you want something to happen or not. So that's sort of how it works. That's called consensus, or way of reaching agreement automatically between, or at least a mechanism to reach agreement between several parties. Uh, and as long as you have an internet connection, that happens pretty fast.
Mm.
So yeah, that's basically the concept. It's just decision making in a group in a faster way. So yeah.
All right. But although there are different copies of that treasurer, they're collective, but at the same time they're individual. You know, paradoxically, because it's not centralized. Okay, so like that's why we replace centralized with decentralized, because when one node or treasurer goes rogue, then the 99%, let's say there's 100 copies of that treasurer. So if one goes rogue, um, it still cannot, let's say, infect the 99 others.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's exactly right. So going back to the same example, if you have that assistant or the copy of the assistant talking to each member in the community, if one assistant becomes evil or something, or tries to run away with the money, then everyone will know at the same time and kick that assistant out of the community. So yeah, it's essentially majority voting or decision by majority, whether or not that's good or bad.
Yeah. And in fact, I guess that the reason people, I think one of the reasons people why they want to go towards DeFi is that they distrust the centralized entity. I'm not bad mouthing it. It's a system that has its limits, if that makes sense. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. It doesn't solve all problems, but it solves some problems that we don't have better solutions for yet. So there are trade-offs. Like, what if a majority decides to be evil? Then everyone's evil. So stuff like that, right? But the majority will always act in their own interest. So that's the premise there.
That's such the word consensus because it's more of a democratic process, right? As
Yeah,
opposed to
exactly.
Mhm. Yeah, as
Yeah,
opposed to
no,
just having one arbitrary entity. Let's say Wall Street, they can do whatever they want, whoever the like governor general of that particular bank is, and it's prone to hacking. So if the whole system is hacked of that, financial institution, then the rest will be affected. As opposed to decentralized, when you hack one, which is very very difficult, I presuppose, still it won't do that much damage. Okay, so I hope that somehow, again, maybe the round two will also shed light more on this. But let's talk to the pragmatic things. What what's the usual scenario among people in the decentralized finance world? So you mentioned Argentina, but not another South American country that has some inflation, super uber inflation, pretty much like Zimbabwe. I forgot the country.
is
Um,
it Venezuela?
Venezuela. They have their own can of worms as well. But maybe you can talk about the typical, say, Western country. How are people from other countries already benefit from DeFi? Maybe you can describe. Let's just say, as the sterling example for this in the Silicon Valley, for example. How do people transact there? What's the scope of transactions with DeFi? Like, what have people bought with the decentralized finance system?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't live there most of the time, so I can't say I know everything about what they need with DeFi. But essentially, I mean, the simplest use for DeFi there is that their interest rate, the savings rate they get is still higher than they would get from a bank. In terms of like sending money easily, of course they have that all solved. You just have your Apple Watch and you scan it on every credit card terminal and you're done. So that's not really a use case for them in terms of payments infrastructure, but of course they just get higher savings rates. That's really the first and foremost thing, right? Just simplifying the existing payments infrastructure that they have or making it better. I don't think it's as much impact as it would be here in the Philippines or Southeast Asian nations, but it's still much better than the existing banking infrastructure that they have. I think it's gonna make a lot of progress as well. But yeah, I'm happy to get into a more specific question in terms of what it might be used for there. But I don't think it would make as much impact as we might need it here because especially in the Philippines, we're all islands, right? So even domestic remittance can become expensive, like you just said with your example when you sent 3,000 pesos, was it? And then you had to pay a 90 peso fee. So that's 3%. Uh, we like if you use a blockchain or a cryptocurrency to do it, or stable coin specifically. I don't know if we define stable coins actually, but essentially like DAI in the example where it's 1-to-1 with a dollar. If you have one that's 1-to-1 with the peso, for example, we've like done some studies and you can get it down to 1% rather than the 3% that you paid, or even lower. So that's much better. Yeah, because you can't effectively send small amounts, but you will be able to using DeFi and blockchain. So yeah.
Wow. So maybe a third of the cost that I just did today. And what if you have volumes of transactions? Yeah, you don't just send once a year. You send virtually practically every week or every day for some emergencies. Interesting. Okay. Uh, then, so when you say DeFi, it's synonymous with cryptocurrency, correct?
Uh, well, I mean, you could say that DeFi is one aspect of cryptocurrencies, and cryptocurrencies are one use case of blockchains. So it's not just DeFi. I mean, cryptocurrencies are used in gaming, like with the Axie Infinity example. It's used in what else? Trading, of course. Trading on exchanges, people just selling high and trying to buy low. A whole bunch of things. Yeah, yeah. Did that answer your question? Yeah.
Yeah, because they're all interrelated. They're like really like chains, right? But is this a fair assessment when I say that decentralized finance uses crypto, but you cannot almost transact without employing a stable coin? Is that a fair assessment?
Well, I mean, most of DeFi is built on stable coins just because it stays the same, right, in value. But you can do the same thing with Ethereum, Bitcoin, etc. It's just that it goes up and down in value, right?
Correct. Because do you happen to know Edward Chang, the CEO of was that high rocket fuel rocket crypto or something? But him and Robert Kiyosaki had an interview about 3 weeks ago, and really it was really enlightening. The stable coins, these are really such called because it's stable, and the cryptos are volatile. So say Bitcoin right now is almost at what, 40,000 US dollars?
What is it right now? 48,000.
Wow.
Yeah, and then last week it was 58,000. So yeah,
And it's normal in the crypto world to have these different fluctuations in a blink at a drop of a hat.
yeah, no, definitely. It goes. Yeah, it's easy to see. Yeah, any portfolio that you have go up and down by 50% in the day. So yeah,
Okay. I don't know how to
yeah.
like account for that like, emotionally, but at least you gotta know as what your typical financial advisors say, your risk and rewards appetite. So I wonder what are the unusual services or the usual services that we are familiar with that people exchange already, because DeFi is like also finance. It's just that we're using blockchain this time because it's unassailable and it's transparent, because people distrust like a very secretive like bank. What are the products and services that have you heard in other countries that you can pay using crypto or stablecoin or decentralized finance as altogether?
Um, Wait, sorry. Was the question what are some well-known products that currently use DeFi, or would it just be any product?
Yeah, any product or services
Sure.
so that people may know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, the most popular ones are like MakerDAO, Compound. Compound would be pretty simple. You just deposit some crypto there, and you can earn an interest rate off it. And I can share my screen and show you guys for the people watching.
Sure.
Let me share my screen. Do I have screen permissions? Yes. Can you see my browser that shows app.compound.finance over here?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Yeah. So essentially what you see here is like I put some like sample crypto in here just so people can see.
Mm.
Essentially what I did was I put $11 or US dollars worth of DAI, the dollar stable coin, into this app here. And essentially what's happening is this app just lends it out to anyone else who is also using the same app who wants to borrow the $11 that I put in. So you can see here, I put in like $11 worth of DAI, and I'm earning, it says here 5%. But it's my overall like percentage is like 8%. And if you see here, this is my balance. You can see that it actually just went up while we were
Right.
on the call. So this is real time. Like if we just stay long enough, you're gonna see it going up. So you can just wait like a few seconds.
We should have shown this at the beginning, right? But anyways, yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I mean, if you keep looking at that left side, oh, there it went up again. So
Yeah.
this is being paid to you by people who are borrowing the DAI and paying 7% a year, and you're earning 5% a year. So where does the rest of it go? It's being paid to the protocol itself, so the protocol can support itself.
Right.
But yeah, that's essentially what's happening. So you can see here that overall, this account is earning 8% per year. If the conditions stay the same the whole year. So it goes up and down, but it's still way more than you get from a savings account with a traditional bank, right? So yeah. So you can borrow other things, there are other cryptos there, but if you just focus on the dollar stablecoin, this is essentially it. It's called the lending and borrowing market. So you can see here the supply and borrow market sides on the left and right side. So you can see that it just keeps going up, right? It's just
Yeah.
several decimal places, but if you leave it there for like a year, the idea is that, let's say this is $10. What's 8% of $10? What is that, $0.8? You're supposed to earn that much. So yeah. And there's no minimum balance, right? And that's really important. There's no minimum balance to start doing this stuff. This is just $11 and you're earning interest. If you go to a bank and you try to give them 500 pesos, the equivalent, right? Will they accept that? Even if they accept that, how much you can earn off that? So that's like the main benefit, right? There's a lot of, it's still early. So there's a lot of problems like transaction fees are high, or it's not available to everyone just yet, but there are apps coming out that make this much easier for people to use. So yeah.
But this is not available on mobile phone yet.
I mean, it is. If you go to this link here, you
Yeah.
can just use your Chrome browser to just go there. You'll need
Yeah.
a MetaMask wallet. But again, so if you have a phone, you have a browser, then go to that link. It's just like going to any website, and you have a blockchain wallet installed in your browser. Then you can take advantage of this. And some mobile phone browsers that allow you to access DeFi apps are like Trust Wallet or Argent. None of these are really built for the Philippines yet, in the sense that you can cash in and out with Philippine pesos, but that's coming soon. Yeah.
Okay. I heard that PayPal is also opening its doors to DeFi.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. I just saw that they accepted Bitcoin purchase. They allow people to buy and sell Bitcoin, but if they're opening up to DeFi, that's really good. And probably one of the first things that they'll give to their users is Compound, because it's one of the oldest protocols. Well, not old, but it's still new, but one of the first protocols that came out for DeFi. So yeah, just that alone, and you can earn 8%. At least it says 8% right now. Sometimes it's higher, but you can earn that, just leaving a few dollars worth in there.
Wow. So if I'm a Filipino, if I have $1,000,000 peso, that's $20,000, and do what you just did, so 8%.
That's $1,600. So that's 80,000 pesos.
Man, I can live off of that monthly. I can retire.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I do one meal a day, so, and intermittent fasting. So
Yeah, and I mean, the farther you live from the capital, the less you need to actually just get passive income. And that's very achievable, right? Well, at least much more achievable than other things so far. So yeah, definitely.
wow. No, I've never thought of that from a depositor's perspective. I was just gonna talk to you about how people, transact with each other, but that opens another door for me actually, because I was thinking of where to put some of the incomes that I have, especially when it comes to like passive. At least you got to know how much of a chunk you have to beat the average there. Let's say index fund. So if it's 7 day safe, 4 is the safest. Interesting. We're probably going to have some round two here, but so the usual service, I saw that plane tickets you can buy, you can use your crypto wallet using buying uh, airline tickets, resorts,
Is this for PayPal, or do you mean just overall things you can buy
overall.
with Bitcoin? Yeah. I mean, I've heard that too. I haven't actually tried it, but there's also like, you know, Bitcoin or Ethereum debit cards, like it would have Visa or MasterCard on it. So you can use that to just deduct straight from your crypto account. Binance offers a Visa card, I think, crypto.com as well. So there's a lot of stuff popping up, right? That allows you to take advantage of this. So it's going to get easier. So right now, I mean, people are familiar with like Gcash and Paymaya, but there's going to be apps like that that, you know, just let you use Compound directly, uh, even linked to your bank account eventually. So yeah, that's happening sooner than people think. Probably this year you'll start seeing these kinds of apps popping up in the Philippines.
Wow. When you say Compound, is that like a program?
Oh, Compound is the app I just showed. I just shared on my screen.
Oh, that's it.
That's what it's called. Yeah, Compound, the compound savings rates. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So which brings me to the next questions. In your experience or observation, how many Filipinos are there that are already transacting using decentralized finance among one another and probably abroad as well? Maybe your peers or yourself.
I forgot the actual percentage, but I recall there's a study of people ages Filipinos ages 16 to 64 who report crypto ownership. So Filipinos 16 to 64 who responded to the survey. They found that, what was it, 17% owned cryptocurrencies. I think that's one of the highest in the world, if not the highest, if I'm recalling the figures correctly. So that means there's potentially 17% of the population ages 16 to 64 who have heard, or at least heard of DeFi. So that's pretty high, and that's the reason a lot of like all these like protocols and all these like or all these like DeFi apps are starting to look into the Philippines, because people are just really aware in the Philippines. I mean, it also comes from the fact that a lot of people have smartphones. Oh, sorry, I remember now. Ages 16 to 64, people who had smartphones, 17% reported crypto ownership. So that maps quite well to the idea that if you have a smartphone and a browser, then you can use DeFi. So yeah, I think it's one of the highest in the world. So that's going to be really interesting to watch. So yeah.
Surprisingly, I had an opinion and presupposition that we're in the third world, but we could be quite tech savvy as well. I can only imagine maybe the demographics has more of the majority among the millennials or
Yeah.
mm,
Probably. But I mean, it's
okay.
millennials who will use these things, right? Millennials and younger, not really the previous generation. Okay? The previous generation, like their personal bankers and they're talking to people or the tellers. But I mean, our people our age, we don't like talking to people, right? So
Yeah. Okay, which brings me to the next question. What are the universal banks within the Philippines that are already paving the way for decentralized finance or cryptocurrency?
DeFi, none. Maybe internally studying it, not publicly. So I don't know any that have publicly made any announcements. And I don't expect them to make announcements anytime soon either, because I mean, they're trying to explore it, right? But the thing with DeFi is it cuts out the bank. So I don't think a bank would want to push a DeFi product to its users. But maybe, I mean, they could like hold the stable coins and then just promise an IOU like to the users in their app that they'll get the savings rate from the stable coins, right? They can do that. But anything else like lending, borrowing, paluagan, etc., those kinds of use cases, those are going to pop up without banks, I think. So in terms of banks that have like announced crypto products, yeah, I think Union Bank, of course, is heavy into it. A lot of people have heard about that, and they're pretty good at marketing it. But other banks in the Philippines, I mean, they're studying it and doing like pilots and like experiments. I think RCBC is one. The ADB, of course, it's not a retail bank, right? It's a development finance bank, but they're looking into it heavily as well. I think everyone's looking into it to a certain extent, but no one's offering DeFi or announcing anything on DeFi uh, because it's very, very early and there's not a lot of people who have worked on it yet. So maybe eventually, as we launch the first products, and then the people who worked on those products will get poached by banks or something. But there's like a fundamental difference in thinking if you're building a DeFi product and if you're working for a bank. And I don't think that's one easy thing to overcome, because just because if you work in a bank, you're building like centralized infrastructure, right? Not that it's bad, but I mean, it's good at one thing and DeFi is good at another thing. But it's fundamentally different thinking that you need to have.
Totally, it's the antithesis of the whole business model.
Exactly, and not that they can't coexist or even benefit from each other, or and there will be intersections. But a bank, I have not seen that a bank can build a DeFi app, at least from scratch, and I have not seen that a DeFi app would want to be like a bank. So sort of something like that, right? I mean, usually DeFi apps are built by people who are like former bankers, etc. But yeah.
Okay. So how I don't know how to make sense of seeing like a handful, if not more than 10 people who are blockchain developers working for some banks. Maybe that's done more of a private blockchain instead of a public.
Yeah. I mean, like, blockchain stuff is also good for like enterprise stuff. So there's definitely a lot of work going on there. And like a lot of people get their first experience building something in a bank, probably, or some enterprise institution. But once they do that, and those of them who understand what they can do when they see DeFi will, hop over and build something in DeFi. So, or at least that's also my background. So yeah.
All right, because a lot of institutional funds, such as hedge funds, are already also buying in increments, maybe several hundreds of millions, as what they say. Just to diversify the portfolio there. So maybe these transactions among like big guys can employ blockchain among like universal banks or whatever other financial services that they can come up with, because you know how it is in finance. There's so many different, almost like esoteric sometimes, unless you're a banker yourself. All right, so
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, so yeah, let's as a conclusion here, a pre-conclusion, let's show them later on maybe, but maybe just as an incentive for Filipinos, so as to be early here. How can Juan de la Cruz, the typical Juan de la Cruz or Juana de la Cruz, get into DeFi early and take advantage of that um, preemption chronologically, for instance? What are the advantages of
Uh, yeah, I mean, the interest rates are high now because maybe not a lot of people are using it yet. So maybe it will go down in the future, but it'll still be higher than what you traditionally get from a bank. So, I mean, if you start now, you'll probably get, higher interest rates. So that's one thing, one benefit to starting early. Other benefits are, I mean, you earn more money. You have more ways to produce income. It's not so much an early benefit as it is just having more time to earn a higher amount of like income or interest rates. Other things, yeah, I mean, it's not really DeFi, right? I mean, DeFi earns you more money, sure, but then other crypto use cases like I mean, there's a lot. But for DeFi, you get in early. Sure, you make some profit. You also get a lot of free, like sort of like rewards or tokens from using these DeFi apps that will run out eventually. So the early users will get them first. They call this like liquidity farming, meaning if you use the protocol, you get rewarded in like shares of the protocol. So for example, if you farm on Compound, if you lend money on Compound, you earn Compound tokens, which sort of function like a share of the company, but it's not really a company anymore. And that of course has value. So it's as if you gain ownership in the protocol that you're using. So that's one interesting thing that DeFi offers. They make their users also owners of the system. So, I mean, you go back to the bank example. If you have your money in a bank account, uh, like in BPI is not going to give you BPI shares just for depositing money, but these apps will. So that's one benefit. Yeah.
All right. Because okay, so those tokens, or shall we say rewards, are on top of your interests that you earn.
Yeah,
correct?
exactly. Yeah, it's like earning. So it's like if you have a credit card, or if you have, let's say, what's a good example? Like if you're on Shopee or something or Zomato, you earn these like freebies in the app for using the app. This is like
Mm,
the next level. So maybe there you get a discount eating in a restaurant if you use like Zomato or something. But here, if you use the app, you actually get shares of the app that is
okay.
worth an amount of money, or maybe it even earns income on its own, or it gives you the right to vote for the vote on what the app can do next. So stuff like that. So yeah.
Wow.
So essentially, the
Um,
users become owners. So that's really interesting.
interesting. And the tokenomics of this is similar to Bitcoin, that it's not um what do you call it, when a central bank just prints money, just prints it like
Yeah.
trigger happy printing.
Yeah.
um
Well, I mean, it depends. That could be the case. It depends on the app. So you also have to choose which app makes more sense to use. But that's what's happening right now. Essentially, the users of each of these DeFi apps are also part owners because they own a share of the app, essentially. Yeah. But
Quantitative easing.
yeah, something like that, right? Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, sometimes it might not make sense in terms of the token economics you mentioned, but if it does, then you'll have ownership in something that could be like, the future Facebook or something, right? So how
Right.
often do you get shares of Facebook for using Facebook? So yeah.
But you can always sell these rewards of yours if someone wants to buy it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like an additional interest rate that will run out at some point. Um, yeah, and maybe later on, apps won't do that as much. But yeah, for now, you do get that, and you can trade it and just sell it or buy more if you want. Yeah.
And the value of these tokens within that app also increases or fluctuates to some degree.
Yeah, because I mean, those tokens are not stable coins, right? Those are volatile asset. It's like shares, like stocks. Yeah, that would go up and down depending on the performance of the app itself, or the company that runs the app.
Okay, and currently there will always be people who would like to buy these to diversify their crypto investments.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just like stocks, this is like stocks on steroids, right? Anyone who has these like tokens that represent ownership in the DeFi app or DeFi protocol uh, can sell it at some point, or maybe someone else wants to buy it from them. And if there's enough people buying it and less people selling it, then the price goes up, and then people start betting on if it'll go up or down. So yeah, the whole same thing again.
Okay, um, so as an investor again, is there like a greater percentage if there's like a lock-in period? Do these apps also offer lock-in period, which has more handsome returns, and you cannot just withdraw your money?
Some do. I mean, it depends. Not all of them, but some reward you for holding it rather than selling it. And that's to keep the price of their token up, right? Because if there's less people selling it and more people waiting at a later time, then of course the price doesn't go down as much, or it doesn't fluctuate as much. But yeah, I mean, it depends. That is one thing they do sometimes. It depends on the app that you use, but yeah.
Okay, cool. So if people want to learn more, what's your usual recommendations? Let's say your cousin or maybe your tita. Hey, Chris, I know that you're like a crypto expert. How do I get myself educated? Where do you, aside from maybe Googling it, do you happen to have maybe Investopedia or some other podcasts?
Well, I mean, the place you go to learn everything. So go to YouTube and search crypto, and you should find a lot there. But you can also join like the community channels here in the Philippines and just interact with the community in a more local setting. So the Crypto PH chats, there's a lot of people there. There's both practitioners and just everyday traders or just people who want to learn about it. Those chats are open to anyone. So you can just search Crypto PH, for example, on Twitter, and you should find some tags, or search it on Telegram. I think it's just an open chat that anyone can join. Yeah, there's a lot. And if you're a developer, you can, of course, join the developer channels that we run. So it's growing really fast. So yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Everything you need to learn is just online, so it's pretty easy. Yeah.
Awesome. That's what we do here in Near Protocol Philippines. Is we're trying to simplify from the ethereal esoteric world of developers, because developers can just be in their like bubble, but how do you translate that into the common day-to-day people who are non-techie like me, still getting there, and create value as an from an educational and entertaining standpoint sometimes. So do you still have some demonstration for our viewers on how to maybe sign up at least for a whatever wallet,
Um.
or maybe not,
Well, I mean,
or you just shown them already?
yeah, I think that's good enough. I would have to connect my phone, and I didn't like set that up. But essentially, if you Google, like, let's say Trust Wallet or Argent, or Binance even, you'll find all these apps that you can just download, and they're all in the App Store. So it's really easy, and just download it just like any other app and start using it. That'll pretty much get you there. So yeah.
Okay. And how can they funnel money into that from their bank account or credit card that can already be funded?
Well, yeah, I mean, just like any like e-wallet they're used to using here. I mean, usually you can cash in with like 7-Eleven, or what else? Their bank account. Yeah, you can cash in with like the usual places like Cebuano Lawyer, or any of the stalls you see in like a mall where you just cash in. Same way you cash into Gcash or Paymaya. A lot of these stuff works now. Uh, Sometimes you'll need like a separate wallet. Like here in the Philippines, it's CoinsPH. There's PDAX, I know, and then you can just send that crypto to your Trust wallet, for example. That's a whole nother route. It depends on how you want to do it, but it's getting faster. Right now, you kind of need two apps, but eventually it will just be one soon.
Okay. Wow. So we've
Yeah,
covered a lot of materials here, Chris.
yeah, and
I
it's
guess.
sort of that's what we're building, right? So we're making sure that we consolidate the entire experience, that you can just cash in, and then essentially use DeFi straight away, without having to download all these different apps. So we just make it really really easy, right? So yeah.
You're talking about Halo DAO,
Uh,
your project.
Yeah, not just our project, but the community in general. So, but HoloDAO makes, for example, makes it easy to access DeFi with, for example, region-specific stable coins. And then partners on the ground who would build wallets will use that and expose that to users. So yeah, I mean, companies, blockchain companies at least don't try to do everything themselves. We'll work with each other to build, DeFi access or financial access to anyone who needs it. So yeah, yeah, and you'll start seeing a lot of that coming up towards the end of the year.
And yeah, and when you talked about something that you were working on, you're talking about Crypto PH and its applications.
Crypto PH will be a community, but you'll find a lot of blockchain companies there, both upcoming DeFi startups like ours, exchanges like PDAX, Bloom, Binance. You'll find them all there, as well as
Mm.
traders or any aspect of like crypto, right? That people want to get into. You'll find like-minded people in there. So you can just search Crypto PH and you'll find something probably on like Twitter, and then you'll just message one of the people tweeting about it, and they'll probably be able to invite you. I think it's an open channel on Telegram as well, if you have Telegram and Discord. Yeah.
Okay. Last question before we conclude. Um, what's your vision for decentralized finance within the Philippines?
Vision. I don't know. I mean, on a technical basis, just to make it easy for everyone to access. But I guess it's what I mentioned at the start. It's what we call permissionless commerce. Is that I mean, because right now you essentially need a number of IDs. You need a bank account, you need a credit card to essentially just order anything online, to send money, to play a game online and pay for it. But what permissionless commerce does, it allows you to access anything that is on the internet. So if you want to order some, for example, like one of the products we build allows you to order allows like migrant workers working in Singapore to send goods to their families, no matter where they are in the Philippines. So it's like Grab. It's like Grab Mart or Metro Mart, except your family member is ordering for you and it just arrives and it's already paid for. So those are the kinds of things that permissionless commerce allows, not just crypto, it's goods and services. And essentially, we want to build that whole thing so that, uh, if you have a phone, you have internet, you can actually do these things, which is like the value proposition of the internet, right? Ever since the early days.
Yeah.
But now, we didn't know that, this whole blockchain, crypto, DeFi stuff was one of the, the later solutions that we needed to make it work.
Yeah. Considering that there's 10 million Filipinos outside the Philippines funneling in money.
Yeah. Yeah. And what was it? 10% of our GDP is from remittances, if I got that right. Or at least average over the years. So it's quite a bit and it's growing. Even during COVID, like it didn't drop that much. So remittances were still pretty high, like pretty close to last year. So it's something that needs solving. And even if you can reduce something from 3% to 1%, that's a really big amount of value that's saved for the people working hard to send it home.
Oh yeah, for sure. Chris, time will fail us if we were to like uncover and unpack all these things, but looking forward to have a round two with you. But this
Sure.
is a good decentralized finance 101 for our listeners.
Yeah, hope it made sense, and I hope it didn't use too many esoteric words, like you said. But yeah.
Sige, so salamat sa time. I hope may na-learn po kayo and ako din may na-learn. And as in the case of education, it's just continuous. If you want to learn something, no matter how technical it can be, we don't have to learn calculus, but when it comes to finance, everybody is involved with finance. So we must know our alternative para makasave tayo, kung may masave ka to set it aside for investment or sayang pa din, no? Pag sinabing, let's say 1%, that's 60 pesos, for example. I paid 90 peso. If I could save 60 peso, that's like what? 6 talbos na kamote because I eat a lot of green vegetables. So that's just in my case though. So again, Chris, thanks for your time. And once again, guys, this is Over Jam, Andy right there recording our video. This is Near Protocol Philippines, and we'll see you in the next video. Good night.